Hello, welcome to Salon Expert. I am Kate and I have been asked by a few of you what paperwork systems you should have in place. I started to write this down and realised it was going to be quite a long read, so I know some of you will probably prefer to listen to this while you're getting on with other tasks rather than reading quite a long blog. I have created a Salon Owners Paperwork Pack, which is all the systems that I use and implemented in my previous business. And, a few of you have downloaded that now and have asked how you effectively implement that. And I know some of you maybe want to create your own. So for that reason, I've got this little presentation and I hope it helps and I hope you can start running your salon a lot more efficiently. So why having systems in place works, you'll find that it's so much easier to find any paperwork that you're looking for, and it also makes you legally compliant for your insurance, employment and government registrations or local council registrations. It will give you great peace of mind when you've got all your paperwork filed correctly and you have a place for everything, and it helps with staff training, staff induction and staff discipline, and you will have very few problems with your staff by implementing systems like this. I'm not saying you won't have problems, but this will help you to deal with them more effectively, and it gives you protocols for every step of your business from the front door to the back door. If you have all these systems in place, so you know how to effectively run your business, and anybody who comes into your business, whether they be a visitor, a work experience, a junior or a full-time therapist, you can then implement this system into place and they basically train somebody up to how you would run your business, because everything's there set out as a guideline of how things should be done step by step. So it really will change the way you run your business. There is so much to cover today, so if I do talk fast, obviously please be aware that I didn't want this to run into a really long presentation, so I'm hoping that we can actually get through everything in enough time for you to take it on board and to understand how to implement everything correctly. So I found the most easiest way to store my files and folders and paperwork is in A4 lever arch files, and then I put them on a shelf in a lockable cabinet so that they're easy to see. When you're filing them in filing cabinets and you've got all loose paper, it's quite hard to reference. So you'll need plenty of A4 lever arch files, and you'll need plenty of paper wallets and dividers. And obviously pens and paper as well, and a printer close by. But the reason why we keep them in files and folders, it's so much quicker to reference, it's easier to find the information, it reduces your paperwork, and it makes everything GDPR compliant as well. So I'm going to go over all the files and folders that I have in place in my business, and if you've got a pen and paper with you, take notes, and hopefully you'll get your own systems implemented quite quickly through this presentation. So I feel that every salon or every business really should have these files in place. They should have an accidents and procedures folder, a business meetings folder, a folder with all your COSHH regulations and COSHH sheets, fire safety folder, your HR policies and procedures, an insurance folder, a folder with all your inventories in there, a folder with all your policy and procedures, your risk assessment file, your invoices, a consultation form file, and your front desk system, which I call my Salon Bible. These are all the files that you should have in place. In total, there should be about 15 files maximum, but it will allow you to sort of overspill with all the information and that you'll collate over the years. But it will really help to for you to be able to quickly access the information that you need when you need it. So the first file that I'm going to talk to you about is the accident and procedures file. You might already have an accident book in place, but this is my file that I keep everything pertaining to accident, injury and loss. I keep a header sheet on every section of my file, which will have details of who were first aid trained, when their first aid training is due, which I'll show you a couple of samples of those. And I have these in most of my folders as well. And also I have a sign-off sheet in there, which basically gives anybody who I take on as a new member of staff, anybody who I'm taking on as a work experience, or who comes in as a visitor, or anybody who I need to get them to review the induction, the policies and procedures, or the accident procedures, that they can go back through the file and sign to say it. And it's basically like a training record, so you've got all those details to hand. But what else do I keep in there? So I'll have my file sectioned, and each section will have its own unique header. So my first section will be first aid kit contents and checklists. In here I've basically got where my first aid kits are located, the contents of my first aid kits and what should be in there, and I'll do regular checks as well to make sure that everything is present and in date, and when they're due for review. And I keep my review notifications on my phone so it prompts me when these are due as well. I'll have an accident policy in there, and this will be behind my sign-off sheet where I can do my staff induction, and when I update the policy I can get people to say that they've signed it, that they've read the policy and they understand that about any of the changes that are present. I also have a bloodborne and sharps policy. Again, they'll be in each individual section, and they will also have a front sheet to say that people have checked and reviewed the policies and procedures and understand them. I keep copies of all the forms in there, so I keep copies of my accident report forms, my loss and damages form, my staff immunisation forms, my staff immunisation declarations and any relevant risk assessments. My accident report form will very similar to your accident book, but I keep these in sheets. And I also keep a tally of all the accident forms that have been used over the space of the business running and operating. But I don't keep my accident report forms that have been filled in the folder. I keep those separate in a filing cabinet to comply with GDPR. But I do keep a quick overview of any file or forms that have been filled in, so I can see quickly where any accidents or injuries have occurred. I keep a loss and damages form in there. This is basically to say if anything's been damaged or has anything been stolen, or particularly if things have fell off the wall and which could have caused an injury, just to address those issues that, you know, if say shelf fell down, you know, how you prevent that from occurring in the future to prevent any ongoing injury. I keep all staff immunisation record forms in there. I don't keep them inside the file due to GDPR. I do keep them in the staff files, but I get my staff to fill those staff immunisation records out as well. I keep a staff declaration in there, and this basically says that they are not happy to have the immunisation, and it just gives me some protection that if anything does happen to them, I know that they're not protected. And then finally, I just keep any risk assessments that might pertain to any of the injuries in there, but usually I keep all copies. You'll find a lot of my files, I'll keep the copies of most things together, and then I'll keep another copy in another file. It's just so that everything is quickly and easily accessible to all members of staff. So this is a bit of a sample of what to include in your file. This is one of my front header sheets, my first aid sheet, and this just gives me a quick breakdown of who the first aiders are in the business, and the staff can have access to this as well. And it also tells me where all my first aid kits are, my eye wash stations, and all the emergency contact numbers that you might need. And this is included in my first accident policy and procedures file that all my staff can have quick access to, and you can see who needs to be contacted in the event of an emergency. So this is my staff record of knowledge. As I said, I keep a lot of this very similar sort of forms through all my folders, and this basically gives me a checklist to see who's had any of the policies and procedures, who's read the policies and procedures, and if they're due for any biannual reviews, or if they're policy updates, or if it's during staff induction. I get them to sign to say, and it just gives me a bit of a record of who's had that knowledge, who's been trained, and if anybody ever says they've never been told anything or they weren't aware of any procedures, you can go back through your records to find that information out. I am being really quick with this today, just to give you that oversight of everything that you will need within your Salon systems and within your paperwork compliance. But you know, if you do need any more clarification, any help, you can contact me on salonexpertuk@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can purchase this Salon Owners Pack from salonexpert.co.uk, and all this paperwork is in there ready to download, and you can just print it out and edit it to suit your needs. So this here is another header sheet that I have, and this just gives an outline of who my first aiders are and when their renewal dates are due, and this makes sure that I'm checking all the time who needs to go back on and have any more training. And again, I keep notifications of any changes in my phone, so it prompts me to go back and edit any of the records as I move through the business. So I have another file which is my business meetings file. I don't actually have this in the business owners pack, but I do explain it to you a little bit in terms of why I keep it. I record every single meeting that I have with business professionals or my staff, whether it's a one-to-one, team meetings, accountants meetings, bank meetings. And the reason why I do this is anybody who's kept minutes of meetings, it really does help you to be able to go back and see what you need to discuss or what you have discussed previously. So I keep a detail on there. It's a big written sheet It'll have who's present at the meeting, the time, the date the meeting took place, and it'll have any questions that need to be raised during that meeting. So if it's a meeting with a rep, it could be more staff training, it could be promotions, it could be an open evening. If you're having a team meeting with the staff, it could be what you need to bring up during that team meeting. And then you basically record any of the outcomes to the question. So if you had a question of like, when can I get some more training for my staff with one of your reps, if they say, okay, I'm going to go back to the office and I'll contact you back in a week and I'll give you some dates, you can pop that in there as what was the response for the outcome to the question. And then also you'd add other things that was brought up. So, in a team meeting, if somebody says, look, the coffee machine's broken, or, we feel that 20 minutes for a lunch break isn't long enough, we might actually could possibly do with 40 minutes, or we have a half an hour lunch break, but our clients are running into that, and then we've got the clients straight after. If they're bringing up different things, and you need to record those as well. And I basically record all my main meetings, my team meetings, accountants, rep meetings, bank account meetings, anything like that, in a business meetings file, so that I can go back through for reference, and then I can see what needs to be done as a call of action. In terms of that, I also record a lot of the meetings, so I do keep digital files, and I keep digital files on my laptop so I can access them, and it just gives me clarification of anything that was discussed. And then, if you've ever been made a false promise, you've got that backup and proof as well. In terms of this, I also get all my team members on board to do this. So if they're having peer-to-peer meetings, or if they're an apprentice and they're having meetings with one of the colleges, then I get them to get into a process of doing this, into a routine of doing this, so that I've got an idea of what was discussed, what was said, nothing gets forgotten, and then if there's a plan of action or a call to action within that meeting, that I can then make sure that that's chased up and implemented as well. So you might not want to keep a business meetings file, but if you do get into the habit of it, it really does help and protect you moving forward. And if you're forgetful as me, it gives you a bit of a reminder of what might have been previously discussed. So the other file that every business really needs to keep is a COSHH file, and this will be all your duty of care certificates, your SDS sheets, COSHH policies and procedures, and review dates of any of your systems. As I say, I keep in each file, I keep things in different sections of my lever arch file, and I have header sheets in there that basically explain what the contents are going to be of that section. And then if there's any policies and procedures, I have my sign-in sheet as well, that all my members of staff will sign to say that they've read through it. And that's very similar to the one in the accident policy and procedures folder, if you want to use that as a template. But as I said, if you've already got the Salon owners pack, that's already in there. You just need to print off the actual COSHH file, and that will print all the header sheets off for you, and then you just fill in any areas that you need to fill in. The reason why you keep your duty of care certificates, for those of you who've got waste contracts, you will need to keep hold of these if you've got local council registrations coming up, or if you've got an incident where your waste is found, and it's found in a dump site, that you can actually prove that waste has been disposed of properly, and you have had a proper contract in place with somebody. I keep all my SDS sheets for my high risk treatments. You don't need, if you're doing something and it's a really basic facial and using basic beauty products, and the risk of the products are really low, you probably don't need SDS sheets, but I do find it's good practice to have them anyway. So for any product that I purchase in my salon or my business that I'm using on the public, I have every SDS sheet there, and I also have every SDS sheet for cleaning products. So anything really that can be an allergic or cause an allergic reaction on the skin, if it can be ingested and it's harmful, if it can go in the eyes and be harmful, if it's flammable, these are the sheets that I'm going to keep in my file. And I keep them broken down into sections as well. So section 1 will be cleaning products, section 2 will be manicure and pedicure, section 3 might be facials, section 4 might be body. Or if you've got, like, say, Elemis or skin cuticles or something in there, you can put all your products in there and just section it off so you can find those. I keep an index sheet at the front of each section, and each one will have each item listed down and where the location of that SDS sheet is. It just means if you need to find a sheet really quickly, if somebody ingests something or gets something in their eyes, you can locate that sheet really quickly by using your index sheet. And then I have my COSHH policies and procedures, which basically explains how my staff should be wearing PPE, how they should be storing the chemicals, how they should be protecting clients, particularly if they're doing, say, skin peels, that they're protecting their eyes with damp cotton wool. And then obviously I'd be reviewing these periodically as well. I'd be making sure that all my SDS sheets are there, that they've got no changes on the products, and that my duty of care certificates are updated. and obviously policies and procedures as well. Coming up with Brexit, things will start to change. Things might start to have their own different laws and different procedures and different policies, so do keep up to date with that. But those would need to go through and be changed into your policies and procedures review as well. So COSHH files are really important, whether you're a sole trader or whether you're employing staff. So as I say, if I'm going too fast for you, keep just rewatching this or pause it so you can take time to write down the files and things that you do need. I'm literally just touching on the surface of what like forms and files and things that you'll have in place. And if you did want to download the Salon Owners Pack, you can do so, and everything is in there for you. But I don't want to keep this dragged on too long, so this is why I'm sort of rushing through it as quickly as possible. So the other file that you should have, whether again if you're a sole trader or you've got employees or self-employed staff or visitors or rent a room people, anybody who's coming on site on your premises, you do need a fire safety policy. And my folder contains, again, all my separate sections. I have header sheets for each, and I have who I have done fire drills with, who's been present at fire drills, who the fire marshals are, who's responsible for overseeing the fire safety and making sure that the fire logbooks are filled in regularly. I have any staff training records. So the same with my first aid file. I keep all copies of my first aid certificates in there for my staff. My fire safety one will have all my fire marshal certificates as well for my staff training. I keep a copy of my fire safety policy in there, which is basically what to do in the event of a fire, how it should be tackled and who should be told. And also it will have the evacuation details as well, and also information in there how to prevent fire. I have a fire evacuation plan, which is basically a drawn up version of your Salon, and that will have where all your fire exits are, where your fire extinguishers are, and your fire alarms and smoke alarms and so on. And this means, every room should have one of these. So if you're not present and there's a fire and your client is in the room, or a visitor or a junior, they will be able to find the way out the building safely. I also keep a fire logbook in there. You can download these really easily off the internet. I've got my own, and I've also got one in the Salon Owners Pack that I've downloaded. And that basically covers a review every week, every month, every year of your checks that you're putting in place to make sure that you're fire safety compliant. And that will be to make sure your fire extinguishers are serviced, to check when you've done fire drills, to check when you've done you've checked your fire exits are clear, you've checked your fire doors are fine and they've not got any warped edging, and you've checked that they do close properly, you've checked that they're not obstructed. You would have checked your fire alarms, smoke alarms, if you've got things that hold your doors back, like magnets that hold your door back that they release. If you've got a proper system that's fire system that's hooked up to the fire brigade, that's serviced regularly, your emergency lighting is checked regularly, and it just gives you all the things that you need to check. I also keep this in digital copy as well, because in the event of a fire, you'll be losing this, so I keep it digital and I keep it printed off manually so that all my staff can read through it, check it and sign it to say that they agree to everything. And again, I keep all my notifications on my phone, so when anything is due for updating, that will automatically come through to my phone, and I know when to do a fire alarm test, when to do a fire drill, when to do a terrorism drill, when to check my first aid folder. Everything will be in my phone, and this should only take you a few minutes each week just to quickly flick through, just double check everything and to put it all back into place. And it's a few minutes just to stay compliant, and it really will help you. So other folders that you'll have will be invoice files. These might be incoming and your outgoings. I keep tracking sheets by the side of the reception area. You might be able to do this through your computerized system where you can print them off, but I like them being written down, because I found if people had extra services and things like that, that they weren't always added onto the computer system, but the staff would always write them down and add them together properly on the taking sheets. So at the end of every day, they could be tallied up, and they could be matching with the computer system, and then they would be added up into cash card, PayPal, vouchers, whatever was taken in that day, and split up. And then I would have each individual member of staff what they took individually each day, and I'd do my end of day on my credit card machine and attach all my credit card receipts for that day with my end of day receipt. and that would go in my incomings folder. And any expenditures, I had a petty cash sheet next to my desk, and anybody who bought anything during the day, whether it was from the warehouse or from the shop for for coffee or tea, that the receipts would be attached to those, and they would be listed with all the money that they've spent during the day. And then I'd keep my own back office one as well, which would include anything that I've spent out the bank, any direct debits, any back payments, any payments that I've made by credit or debit card. They would be recorded and they would be filed away with the relevant invoices to hand, so that when it came to doing my end of year, I could hand those files over to my accountant and everything would be in place and would be together. You might keep a computerized system. You might keep these invoices digitally. I do have a digital file on my computer as well, separated into months, where I store all these files digitally. But then I also keep hard copies just to be on the safe side. So I've got them doubly stored and I have them written down. And I also, at the end of every week, import the incoming and the outgoing expenditures into my online accounting system as well for my accountant. So basically I've got backups of both. So you should have two folders. You should have one for your incomings and one for your expenses. As this is my first ever video presentation, I really would appreciate any feedback. So if you think this is not very good, please let me know and I'll hopefully go away and redo it again. I did do this a couple of times and each time it went over to about an hour and a half, and I just knew that'd be far too long for you to watch. So I'm trying to edit it down as quickly as possible to get it in under 45 minutes really, so that I just don't bore you to tears. But if you do need any help, please just contact me and I'll try and do my best to help you. So I have a HR policy file as well. You might not be ready for this, but it's always good to have it in place just in case you do take on a member of staff. You've got everything there. And my HR policy is basically every single thing to do with my staff. The number one sort of problem most salon owners have is staff, is that staff aren't great, that staff leave, that staff don't do their jobs right. If you've got everything written down in your HR policy, prior to them starting, there should be no excuses for any tardiness. My HR policy is basically, again, like I say, I talk about front door to back door, and this is basically writing down everything that you do. So if you're going to go and bake a cake, it's not about baking the cake, it's where you get your ingredients from, why you're getting those ingredients, why do you use the best chocolate for your chocolate cake, and then, you'll be walking home, how you would walk home, how you would carry the eggs, to walking into the house and how you would bake that cake and how you would ice the cake. So it was literally absolutely everything, right through to how you would present the cake for somebody to eat, and even going down as far as how you would eat the cake. So it really is front door to back door. You want to make sure that every single part of your business is covered. And it might seem quite anal, but if your staff members know what they're supposed to be doing from day one, they're not going to cause as many problems. And it's very much like training puppies or training children. If you just let them run loose, they're not going to be able to behave the way you want them to behave. And a lot of staff come with bad habits. They come from businesses where they don't have these implements in place or these systems in place, and they feel like they've got free reign. And this is why a lot of staff will jump from salon to salon to salon, because they haven't got the structure in place. And structure really does help with the business, and it really does help with staff. So I always have my interview procedures. I have my job description and job roles. My interview procedures really is, what kind of person am I looking for? What qualifications do I need? And there'll always be a main set of questions I'll ask every single member of staff. And that will be things like, what do they do with customer service? How would they treat their staff, their clients? How would they treat team members? What would they do if they didn't have any clients in? How would they build their columns up? And I'd be really looking for people who've got those skills that can self-manage rather than be, wanting to have everybody do everything for them. My job description and job roles. If you don't have job description and job roles, how do your staff know what they're supposed to be doing in a day, and how do they know it's their responsibility? And you can employ a beauty therapist, and then 4 months later, why aren't you cleaning? She's like, well, it's not my job. Why should I clean? I'm just a beauty therapist. If it's set out in the job role that housekeeping is part and parcel of their job, they can't sit there and say that they were never told. So always have your job description and job roles. There are samples of those in my salon owners pack as well, but again, you want to edit those to suit yourself. But you might also want to go away and create your own. I have my, as soon as I take on a member of staff after I'm happy with them at interview stage, I make sure they come in and do a trade test. If they're still good at the trade test, I get them to do a couple of days work for me for free. And this is basically to see and test the water of how they work under pressure, how they work on clients, how they work as part of the team. And if they're still there at this stage, most of you'll find that your candidates drop off bit by bit. So they'll drop off before they even get to interview. They drop off before they get to the trade test. They drop off before they come in for the trial, and then at this point, some of them may drop off before they even accept the job. So this really weeds out those staff members that you don't want. These are you getting rid of your weak members of the team quite early on. I always put my staff on a 6-month probationary, but I always do an induction with my staff. Now, that's one thing that I cover heavily in my HR policy, but I would advise that you edit this to suit you. So your staff induction will be covering all the policies and procedures that we've covered today. So they'll be going over the folders, they'll be understanding how the salon runs, and they'll be going over the salon Bible, so they'll understand every single aspect of the business and how it runs. You will train them up from day one of how you expect them to set up the treatment room, how you expect them to sterilise equipment, how you expect them to clean, how you expect them to answer the phone, how you expect them to address a client, to do a consultation. So every single aspect of the business you're going to train that member of staff to do. If you don't do this, they're going to be doing it their own way. Then you have no consistency to test and measure your staff by. So when you say you've got client complaints, it's not your staff's fault. Most of the time it's down to you because you've not told that staff member or trained that staff member how to behave or how to put things into place. If you have and then she gets a complaint, you can then with full conviction go back to the staff member and go, well, come on, what happened? Why did this occur? And if they've got no valid reason for it to occur other than, I just couldn't be bothered, I was having a bad day, you can then put the disciplinary action in place to get rid of that staff member because they're clearly not for you. So by having everything in place, it allows you to then put the discipline in place as well. And you've probably been in this situation if you do employ staff at the moment where you pull somebody up on being on the phone, sat in reception and ignoring clients. We go, well, you never told me. And, why have you got a uniform like that? Well, you never told me. So, they use this as an excuse that they were never trained. And so from the very beginning, from day one, have in place training protocols. And you don't have to train them yourself. You need to just team them up with stronger members of staff that they can shadow for the first week or first 2 weeks. And they can learn how to do everything with that member of staff before they start going on to clients. I then have my job offer procedure. Again, I get them a 6-month procedure, a probationary procedure. This basically, I always find after 3 months, my staff will show their true colours. The ones that you think aren't going to stick, usually you pull the socks up and become quite good. And those that you think are absolutely amazing and dazzling and shining and doing absolutely everything from day one, they usually by month 3 can't keep it up any longer, and then they revert back to their usual selves. But this is where if you keep the discipline in place, you keep your team meetings in place, you keep your one-to-one reviews in place, you keep your appraisals in place, you're going to have fewer staff problems because you're going to be on their back all the time. And I don't mean nagging, when I'm saying be on their back, this is in a supportive role. This is making sure they've got everything they need to do their job properly, from the training right through to the equipment, and making sure they're feeding back to you what they need, and it works hand in hand. I have a staff handbook in there. This covers, all the sort of basic things such as your maternity and paternity pay, your leave, how long they're going to give you. I always ask for a 4-week notice period because you just can't get somebody in a week to leave that salon and for you to then find a new replacement and to get them in place. So I always put a 4-week leave notice period in there. I also don't pay them if they do leave within that time. You do want to check on the legalities of that, but I do put it in as a bit of a, if you do, this is going to be the risk. I've very rarely had to enforce that. But in that times they do sign the contract, they do agree. I do explain at the time of them joining the company, if you don't give me 4 weeks notice, this is what's going to happen. I also explain to them what's going to happen with training and how they don't keep hold of their certificates at the end of that I'm fully responsible for their certificates and they can buy them back if they want them at a later stage. I'm not in the business of paying to train up members of staff that are going to leave me and they're going to go and work for somebody else, or they're going to go and work for themselves using my money, my certificates to have set them up in half the treatments that they know. And I also keep all the employment related policies and procedures. I keep my HR policy manual in there as well. You can download all this, most of this for free off human resources solutions.co.uk. They have all these files and that's pretty much where I've got most of mine from. I've not given you my exact policies and my exact inductions because they need to be edited for your purposes. But you can download them and edit them to suit yourself as well. So again, I'll have in there my front sheet and that will tell me who's had a staff handbook. They'll sign to say they've received it, and they'll also keep signing regularly to say they've reread through all the policies and procedures of the HR policy. So the other file I have is my insurance file. You more than likely keep your current policy on the wall, but what do you do with your previous year's policies? You need to keep those stored away, and I have those in my file. Again, I have them separated into 12 sections, and then each sort of year I move them back one, so I can find 2016, 2015. I also keep in there any employers that I had, or employees, or any self-employed staff. I keep copies of their certificates as well, and I keep copies of their insurance details, just in case any claim comes to my business for them from a previous claim. Then I can send it over to the insurance company that was relevant to them. I would be saying to you though, that you have 3 years to bring a claim usually, but I still keep 7 years of insurance documents. If you've ever had an accident form filled in, or you ever believe there was a potential claim or potential risk, you need to make sure straight away you get your member of staff to do a statement with regards to that, just in case that ever does go to court or does get taken to a solicitor's or an personal injury solicitor's. You will have a statement straight away from your member of staff that you can submit, along with copies of the client's consultation forms. Again, block out any personal information pertaining to that. In terms of that, I also keep copies of any of my staff certificates who have worked for me in that year. And that just means that when I do get a claim, if I need a certain member of staff certificate, I can just quickly pull everything out of the file and submit it all to the relevant insurance company for that year. So really handy to have. Again, keep everything together and then you can find it straight away. So I really hope by now you've got a good oversight of exactly what you need file-wise in your business. Obviously, there's a few more that I'm going to go through. And again, please give me any feedback if you're unsure of anything. So the other files that I keep are my inventory files. I have two files. One is my stock inventory, which is going to be all the items that I'm using on a day-to-day basis, like my cotton wool and my skincare products, my retail products. I'm not going to go into detail with that due to the fact that 99% of you probably know how to do it. If you don't, let me know and I will cover that for you in more detail. But I want to cover general and electrical inventories. The reason I want to cover these two more than anything is because generally people don't keep them. And if you're a limited company, these are essential. If you're a non-limited company, they are useful. I keep the details of every item that I own in the salon. I keep them completely separate to electrical and non-electrical. And non-electrical is your beauty beds, your trolleys, your lamps, your pictures, absolutely everything that you own within the business. The reason I keep it, first of all, if I have a fire, if I have a robbery, I know what's been taken and I know the value of it. The other reason is if something breaks down, so if your bed breaks, I'll be able to locate the warranty card. I keep numbers on everything, so I'll have, if I have 4 stools, I'll have number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll pertain that to the warranty card as well, so I know which warranty card is associated with which stool. Just means that if one of them breaks down, and I can then quickly look to see if that was a stool that was in warranty at that time and then send it back for replacement. I will show you a quick breakdown in a minute of how I store that information in an Excel file. It's really, really simple. I also keep my costs in there as well, so it basically shows me just how much money I shouldn't be spending. And also, if you've got a limited company, these items do depreciate in value over the years, so it will help your accountant as well when you come to do your accounting to work out how much stock you have and how many pieces of equipment or furniture and things you have, to work out your stock at valuation and your assets value as well. So the other inventory that I keep is my electrical inventory. Like I say, I also do stock, but I don't want to go over that in detail with you. The reason I keep an electrical inventory, again, it's the same reasons for my general inventory. It allows me to work out my value of my assets. It allows me to work out my depreciation value. It allows me to work out any loss of money for loss adjusters if anything's been stolen or if there's a fire or water damage. And also it allows me to keep valuable records such as my pat testing. So I'll keep every item in there, and this is anything that plugs into your wall. So it'll be electrical cables, electrical extension leads, air fresheners, TVs, PCs, electrical equipment that you use, basically absolutely anything in the salon that plugs in, you're going to list it here. And also things that are wired in as well. So you might have speaker systems that are wired in, or CCTV systems that are wired in. You'll need to include those. And these items will be pat tested every 12 months. If an item is under 12 months, it doesn't need to be pat tested. So if you've just opened your salon and everything's brand new, still keep your electrical inventory, but then you'll know exactly when those items are due for service or for pat testing. And it allows me to know how many items will need to be pat tested as well when it comes due to that time of year. I've been in many situations where I've rang up a pat testing company to come and do the pat testing, and they usually have a minimum call out anyway. But you know, the more items you have, usually the cheaper it will bring your price down. But they'll ask you how many items you have, and if you say 150 and there's actually 300, you know, it's going to nearly almost double the cost of what you was expecting. So if you've got an idea of just how many items there is on site, you know how much your pat testing is going to cost you at the end of the year. And again, if there's any loss to the business, you'll be able to work that out because you'll have details of it. Don't just keep this in your files. I do print this out, but I also write it out on Excel, and then I keep it in my files, and then I keep updating that every 6 to 12 months. So basically I just handwrite in any new items, or I add them onto Excel and then I print them out and put them in the file, whatever is easiest for me. And this allows, again, you to easily access and find your warranty details if anything breaks down, and also to know which items are still in warranty at a glance without having to go and find all the warranty details, or to find the invoice. So really useful thing to keep hold of. Like I say, I mark again my numbers. If I've got 5 mag lamps, they'll all be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll be able to ascertain which item is to which warranty and how old that item is. So when I need to come to do my loss adjustment, or I need to take an item out of service, or I need to get an item fixed, I know exactly how old that item is and which item it actually is, being taken out of service, as opposed to just having a double guess. So as I said, I'm just going to show you a quick breakdown of how I store this in Excel and how I print it off. So this is how I've got it set out. I have my item location, so where the item will be placed, whether it's my reception room or treatment room. I keep the item details, so if it's a computer or a IPL machine, and then I keep the make of it as well. And also the model number and the serial number will be handy to have. If it's got an item number, so like I say, my mag lamps will have number 1 to 5. I keep the item number in there. I keep the purchase date, the cost, and when the pat test is due, and the warranty location. So I keep a separate file with all my warranties in there. So I could have them in section it could be section 6 of file 1, and then when that item breaks down, I can find that information really quickly. You can actually keep them all in the same file. If you want to keep your electrical inventory and all your warranties together, you can actually do that. It just saves down on more space if you're limited for space. But this is how I keep my general inventory as well. Just a quick note, if you do take an item out of service that's electrical, you have to follow the WEEE regulations. So when an item breaks, I do keep a record of that item being out of service on my Excel spreadsheet, and also a quick note of how I disposed of it as well. So the other file that I have is all my policies and procedures. Some of these will again overlap, and you may find they'll fit in different folders. So you'll have some of your policies and procedures in your first aid file, you'll have in your accident policies file, and you'll have some of them in your HR file. But again, I generally keep all my policies and procedures, every single policy procedure, all in the one folder as well, just so I've got everything to hand. This will include my health and safety policy. This covers all your general health and safety. And that will be things such as working at height, lone working, if they're pregnant, what to do, and when to tell us, and what would be done in the event of a pregnancy. It will also include in there how to lift heavy equipment, heavy boxes, and anything to do basically with just the day-to-day sort of health and safety. So again, you trying to think off the top of my head now. So if there's any accidents, how they would be responded to, any near misses or damages, how they would be responded to, anybody who comes on to site, how they're dealt with. It'll have again a brief overview of what to do in the COSHH. And everything there will be sort of covered. You probably already have other separate policies on there, but this will just be your basic overview. And then in terms of I also, don't forget, I have my front sheets in there, which tells me who's responsible for checking the legalities of this, making sure that they stay up to date, and also who has read these policies and procedures as part of their induction, as part of a review, or if you've got somebody who's visiting on site, certain policies and procedures might be more adequate for them. Other policies and procedures I have would be bullying and harassment, clear desk policy, which basically means that all files will be filed away properly. I have equality and diversity. I have GDPR and data protection policy. I have my policy on violence and threatening behaviour, which is more to do with if you've got a member of staff being bullied by a client or the client's being quite vicious, or suggesting sexual things towards your staff member, just how they would deal with that. If you've got a privacy policy on your website or terms and conditions on your website, I have details of those. And I also have a terrorism policy as well. This is quite a weird one for some people, especially if you're in a village or rural area. My businesses were in a city. We were high risk for terrorist attacks. And again, if you're based in London or Birmingham or Liverpool or Manchester, the risk is very much inherent that there will more than likely be some form of a terrorism attack. Mine is how I would deal with the terrorist attack, and how we would deal with things if there was a lockdown or if there was a bomb, and how we respond. It might be a bit scary to some of your staff members, but once you actually explain why it's there, they're a little bit more calmer as to why you have that in place. And it really is a good policy to have, to know what you would do in the event of a lockdown, because you don't know where it's going to take place. It could happen in a small village, and it could happen in a major town. So as long as that's in place, it covers your back. I also have in place, again, my sharps policies and procedures, my accident policies and procedures, my bloodborne policies and procedures, anything to do with my damage and loss policies and procedures. I have my COSHH policy and procedure, my fire safety. So I've already gone through all these with you in detail. But these are the ones that I just keep everything in there. I keep them all indexed, and then when somebody's like, I need a procedure on this, they'll be able to find it. I have procedures on absence management, on capabilities, on appraisals. I have information on drugs and alcohol within the workplace. My disciplinary procedure will be in there. Their grievance procedures, induction policy procedures, IT and social media procedures, maternity, paternity, and adoption, parental leave policies. Trying to think what else would be in there. Robbery and hold up is another quite big one as well, and what to do in the event of a robbery. So you've got quite a lot of policies and procedures information that is about your day-to-day running of your business and the legalities of the business. And again, this is very much an integral part of your staff training, whether that staff is self-employed, whether they are employed, whether they are part-time, full-time, juniors, work experience. Even visitors to your site should be being given a health and safety warning. I have any contractors on site, whether they're painters and decorators, whether they're doing CCTV work, whether they are monitoring a fire alarm. I quickly, briefly sort of get them to read through the fire policy. It's very, very brief, and just get them to sign to say that they're aware of anything that they could do, and also to make sure that they're operating safely as well. Make sure that they're not leaving toolboxes in the middle of the floor where clients could trip over, or they're trailing wires, just to make sure that they're staying compliant for my business. So I also have a risk assessment file. Again, you can keep this in other files, or you can keep it in your COSHH file, or you can keep it in your accident file. But I keep it again separate, because it's just easier for me to find it and to edit them as and when I need to edit them. You should make these risk assessments purposely for you. You can buy templates, and I've got a couple of templates within the Salon Owners Pack, but I really do advise that you write up your own, because you know what hazards are in your business and where them hazards lie. You will need to have an overview of your general risk assessments, which will be your young workers, slips, trips, falls, lone working, working at height, and what you would do for your protocol from that. Then I keep very treatment specific ones. You don't have to do one for every single individual treatment, but I do have one for nail procedures, one for facials, which would basically, your nail procedures would be covering reducing dust inhalation, and reducing allergic reaction, things like that. So again, I have one that's product equipment specific. So if you're using IPL, wax pots, how they can prevent cross contamination, how they can prevent danger to their eyes, and also high risk assessments as well, which would be like your needle safety, your waste disposal, and fire prevention. So all those I would basically keep copies of and keep them in my file. And again, I would have a copy of a sign-off sheet that my staff would be signing to say that they've read through the risk assessments and they're happy with them and they've signed off. And also I keep another sheet which will be an update sheet, and this will be me going over and assessing these as and when they need changes. So every sort of 3 months I'll go in, review my risk assessments, are still fine. If things can be put into place that make things more safely or more safe for the staff or for the clients, I can introduce that straight away. If there's been an injury, again, you might want to go back and reassess your risk assessment. So again, keep a record and a paper trail of any changes that you've made to those. So I'm hoping that this is actually all making so much more sense for you. Again, if you've got any questions, do come and ask. But I've had probably close to 50 people in just the last 4 to 6 weeks ask for this information, so it's so much easier for me to deliver it this way. The other files that I keep are consultation forms. A lot of you are going digitally now, but I still like the handwritten forms. I think it's a lot easier for me to record information during the treatment procedure as well, because I want to know how many sugars she has in her tea, my client has in her tea. I want to know what she's discussed, how many children she's got. She's going away to Venice this weekend, so I can, ask her again next time I see her, how was Venice? How are your children? Here's your cup of tea. Everything, that I can think of for that client. And also I like to record all my treatment protocols, things that I need to do, my contract actions that have occurred during the treatment. And I just don't think online digital forms are fluid enough for that. My consultation forms are completely different. I have about 50 of them in the Salon owners pack, I think, or maybe a few less. But a lot of it is informed consent. So once my client has filled in the medical history, I only get them to refill out a medical history form again if I've not seen them for a few months. But every time they come in for a different treatment, whether it's LED or IPL, I get them to fill in an informed consent to basically say they've got no contraindications and they're happy to go ahead, knowing the aftercare and the contract actions of the treatment as well. I file all my forms away numerically. I don't file them alphabetically because I don't have time, and my staff were stupid. They used to have to count out the alphabet and they used to count out the 24-hour clock, so I wasn't trusting them filing anything alphabetically. So I introduced a numerical system, and you know what? It was actually amazing. Every single client that came through the door that filled in a consultation form was given a number from number 1 right through to, I think at the end, of my last business, we had 7,500 clients. And I kept them all in individual files. So for example, if I had an A4 lever arch file, that'd be consultation form 001 to 250. So if my client came in and she was consultation form number 99, I just had to quickly, go through that form, pick up number 99 and be able to pull that file out and show it to my client and make sure there was no changes in the history, and then I could fill it in, and then when I needed to file it away again, I could literally just throw that back in file number 99. Also makes you very much GDPR compliant, because when you are getting the key to go to access the records, you can actually put your name down, your date and the time. The reason you're accessing the filing system is to obtain consultation form number 99 or to put back consultation form 99. So again, it makes you really, really GDPR compliant, because you're not actually listing the client's name neither. So if you do ever get an independent inspection and somebody sees how often you access the records and why you're accessing the records, you're not going to be able to easily locate somebody's file unless you actually log into their online digital file as well, so you'll know what record number they are. If your system doesn't have a membership number, which I usually use either a membership number, or if my system hasn't got that in place, I just pop it into the notes. So I do have to access the file, I access the notes, I see the consultation form number 99, and I go and find her forms, and I keep all my forms all in that file at 99. And it's brilliant because it just means you've not got overflowing files when you've got like M's, there's so many M's and then your files are overflowing, and then you've not got many X, Y's and Z's, their files are really empty. This just allows you to put 200 odd consultation forms in each file, and as you get busier, you can expand those files out in numerical order as opposed to alphabetically. Really will change the way you actually do your filing. Some of you may be going over now to digital forms, but if you're still in the manual form process, try this filing system, because it will be so much easier. You will not be looking for forms that have been misfiled by members of staff who don't know their alphabet. So hallelujah, I think I've actually managed to keep this file under an hour long, which is what I was intending on doing. Every time I've tried to record this, it's gone way over. So I'm, pleased that I'm actually managing to fly through this with you guys today. So the other file that I keep is my Salon Bible, and this is basically on my front desk every single time, available for all my staff members to see, whether they're a junior, whether they're this salon receptionist, whether they're a beauty therapist, whoever they are. This is the Salon Bible, and this is basically my, again, step-to-step guide from the front door to the back door of what is expected of my staff. This is now not the legalities of the business. This is how I expect my customer service to be delivered. This is how I expect my treatments to be delivered. And it also has a bit of an overview of my policies and procedures as well. And then I also, again, keep copies of my policies and procedures, believe it or not, in the back of the file. So they're very accessible to all the staff members. And this just stops them having any problems or saying they've not had access to any information, or they couldn't find the information out that they needed to at the time. So what's in my Salon Bible? The first thing I keep is my essential information in there. Those of you who are filling this out, you've asked me where the essential information sheet is. It's actually in the general and legal section of your Salon Owners Pack. This includes all your main important information, like your bank details, the company name, company number, registration date, email addresses, managing directors' contact numbers, email addresses, phone numbers, absolutely anything. Your Facebook accounts has all the login details for all the Facebook accounts as well, and for any media that the salon receptionist or the salon therapist will need access to. And also it has all the reference numbers for and account numbers for your gas, your electric, your WorldPay machine or your credit card machine, your water company, your boiler company, your suppliers. So if you've got a rep for a hair care company and that she said, ring me if you need to know about a certain procedure or products, or if you've got a problem with this skincare, give me a ring and I'll be able to help you. Have all your reps numbers in there as well. It just stops that member of staff having to come to you every 5 minutes to get the information. If the boiler breaks down, that staff member knows they can go into this essential information pack. They can find who is responsible for boiler maintenance. They can contact them. They have their account number there, and they have the expiry date or renewal date of when that is due to be renewed as well. And I keep all my renewal dates in there for my insurance company. I keep all my insurance details in there, my renewal dates for my PRS licenses. If you've got to have regular business licenses, business checks, council checks, those will all be in there as well. So really, this is an information pack for the whole of the business. I keep in here as well company job roles, because again, people will always be like, well, what is my job role, and well, that's not my job. And you've probably heard it so many times, arguments between a receptionist and a therapist, or a therapist and a junior, or a junior and a manager. It's like, that's not my job. Why am I taking the rubbish out, or why am I cleaning this? If you've got a list of all the company job roles and who's responsible for who and who's responsible for what within the business, really does make your life so much simpler. I used to have an upline, so I basically had, myself at the top. I overran everything. Beneath me, I had another manager who oversaw the whole salon, and then I had an assistant beauty therapist, an assistant hairdresser, and then I had all my staff underneath that. So if somebody had a problem, they had somewhere to go up the chain. They didn't all come to me and go, right, I need this doing, I need that doing. What can I do about this? Because after a full day of 6 or 7 people coming to you going, oh God, I've got this problem, I've got that, and you're just like, I'm done in. So I had an upline where they could go to somebody else, and if they couldn't get the answer from them, they used to come through to me, and they probably still came to me a lot as well. I keep in there as well my salon philosophy, my salon values. So this is basically what I expect my salon to be run like, how I want my business to be seen as, and how I expect people to be treated within that business as well. I think mine basic one is in the Salon Bible, which you can see. And I also have a list of things I expect out my staff, so how they should always behave, like, look it up in the system Bible. Don't come to me, find that information out yourself. Use helpful phrases. Be personally accountable. Don't say it wasn't me, I don't know. Or don't walk away from a situation, try and solve that situation yourself. Have the approach that nothing is too much trouble. Be happy to help, help other team members. Don't use poor language. Don't say no. Don't gossip. Don't chew gum. Don't blame others. These are all the things that I don't want in my salon. So when somebody's there and they're going, no, this is not right, this is in the Salon Bible, you shouldn't be saying no. And it's also good because amongst team members, members as well. You'll probably find juniors be like, no, I'm not doing that. If it's in there, it's non-negotiable. And then there's other things in there as well that, again, non-negotiable things such as team uniform, luxury language, team meetings, safety and sanitation, nightly clean down, salon setup, inventory, client consultation, those things as well. Also about my salon and service image, how I expect all my staff to behave and my salon to be ran, what clients like, what clients dislike, the client journey from them being on the phone to them being in the salon, how that journey is going to go for them, the customer experience. So again, my staff used to walk in and they'd walk past a dirty window and they'd walk past leaflets on the floor and they'd walk past leaves on the floor and they wouldn't clean up, and it used to drive me mad. And it's like, this is your business as well. And so you have to drum into them that they have to keep looking at the salon through the eyes of a client. If they see a cobweb in a corner, don't just leave it for somebody else. Go and take action and clean it, and get rid of it. The treatment protocol is in there, but I have a general overall treatment protocol. I have a protocol on late arrivals, how to make your client's day, all the ways that you can go above and beyond. And also having there my salon standards as well, what I'm expecting for each member of the team to behave, how they're going to reduce wastage, anything. I mean, my training policies and procedures, my college training policies and procedures is in the Salon Owners Pack. It's a little bit more liberal than some others in that I don't let people take their certificates home. They are property of me. As I said, I don't want them going away and opening up another salon or going and working for somebody else with the skills that I've paid for. So therefore, I never give them the certificates unless they've had a really long service with me. Then I might consider it if they're moving out of the area, or I'll do a buyback scheme if they want to purchase them. Depending on how long they've been in employment with me, they can purchase them back at either 50% or 25% of the cost. So you're recovering your cost. Most people won't do it, but they're then not going to be able to take those skills with them. But I also have other things in there that if they're going to do in-house training or they're going to go and do training on site for another company like your skincare company or your hair care company, that they are actually going to turn up. If they don't turn up, then they forfeit the fees of that training out of their wages. If you've got an apprentice that they are to turn up at college, they have to let the salon know if they're off sick, because most salons, well, nearly all salons really legally should be paying apprentices for the day that they're in college. If they're not in college, you're basically paying them for a free day off. And again, I'm not up for that, so it just covers me in there. Also explains that, they need to be attending the training and they need to take the most out of it as well. I incorporate into my Salon Bible about downtime projects. Downtime projects are basically anything that the client, the staff member can do in between clients. So this could be sensory experiences for clients. It could be cleaning and organising. It could be staff training. So if there's a couple of girls who maybe are free for a couple of hours and one girl is really skilled in one area and a girl is really weak, they can go and work on upskilling each other. They can refill any professional products, they can clean the stock shelves, they can write thank you cards to guests, they can do the housekeeping, they can do all the cleaning. I keep in the file what I'm expecting to be done in the day on morning setup, how that salon should be set up, how everything should be ready to go, what they should do in the afternoon and what they should do to close down at the end of the day. I have a step-by-step guide on reception duty, so how everything should be done, how the phone should be answered, how people should be approached. It will have in there how they see a customer in, how they see a customer out, how they rebook a client, what they do with no-shows, how they deal with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, how they fill in gaps in the diary, record keeping, so everything, they keep written down. And obviously make sure that consultation forms are filled in, how they fill in taking sheets, what to do when we have excess amounts of cash within the till. Usually, that for me, they take it out, they put it in an envelope and they put it into a safe. They'll also keep records of self-employed commission-based staff, and how they take all kinds of payments and how they deal with their lunches. And there'll also be a contact list of anybody that works within the business, so if you need to get hold of a member of staff, they can. I'll have my complaints procedure written down in there so they know how to deal with client complaints, how to deal with emails, how to deal with handling people who contact us via Facebook. I have my voucher policy in this book as well, so people could always just pick up this file and they'll find everything they need. How they cash up at the end of the day, how much float should be left in my till. See how I say it's a real walk by walk guide. Again, how they'll do a client consultation for different procedures, and also how they file those consultation forms as well. Moving on with that, I also keep in there copies of all my contraindications for every treatment, which basically means when a member of or one of your clients rings up and speaks to a member of the staff and says, "Hi, I've got this problem, can I still have this treatment?" They can pull out the contraindications file, they can flick through to that treatment. We can't remember every contraindication, especially if that staff member isn't trained in the treatment per se. They can literally just look it up in the contraindications section of your file. I have treatment protocols. As I said to you, I train my staff to do every single thing in exactly the same way as everybody else, because then I can send in secret shoppers or I can send in friends and family, and I can test and measure every area of my business. If everybody's doing things differently, you won't know if somebody's doing things badly until a member of until a client leaves. Or remember that team leaves and the client goes with somebody else and they go, "Oh my gosh, she was absolutely awful. She did this and she did that and she burnt me with the wax." If you've got the right treatment protocols in place and everybody's working to the right treatment protocol, to how the room is set up, to the ambience of the room, to the consultation process, to the treatment process, everything is absolutely the same, then obviously you're not going to have any discrepancies within the business. And then it allows you to test and measure, as I say, a complaints procedure. So if a client does come in and say, "She didn't do this, she didn't do that, I wasn't getting that," that client can then have, quite a good case for her complaint, because that the staff member hasn't followed treatment protocol. I'm not saying these need to stay in stone. If somebody comes into your business new and they do something better, do adapt them and do improve on them, but make sure that you have a very basic guideline of where you're going to go. Obviously, to a point that if you're doing body treatments, your massage, it's going to be very much, the massage movements itself might be tailored to that client. It might be that the skincare procedure, you'll have to tailor it slightly to the client. But most of the treatment protocols, from how many times they cleanse to what you use to take off the cleanser to how hot the towel cabinet will be, that should all be listed in your protocols. There's 50 protocols available in the Salon Owners Pack, so just go through them and edit them as you need them and as they suit your business. I also keep copies of all my aftercare advice in there as well. Again, this is in the Salon Owners Pack, but just check that that's suitable for you. Add any more for treatments that you offer, print them out and pop them into the file. I have a brief policy overview in there. I don't want to bombard all my staff with the full policies, because sometimes they read and they just don't absorb them. So having a very brief policy overview in the back of this manual just gives the staff members something to quickly go over. And again, this is something they can do in their downtime project. My policy overview basically covers staff discounts and treatments, how to deal with holiday leave, and what what the staff members should do if they're sick or off work, how to deal with workplace bullying or client aggression, and what to do for breaks, how to do their start and finish times. I set it that they will not leave until 15 minutes after their end time of their last minute, so they finish at 5 o'clock, then they don't actually leave work till 5:15. And if they have a client and that client doesn't finish, or they're not finished with that client till 5:15, then their end time will be 5:30. So it'll be 15 minutes past either their leave time or 15 minutes after the last client, whichever is the nearest one. And this just allows them to do the downtime and the cleaning before they go home, because as you probably know, you do have staff that run out the door and go, "I'll clean up tomorrow," and they leave hair all over the place and everything. It's a nightmare. There'll be information there on the uniform, drugs and alcohol policy, accident and damages policy, fire policy, pregnancy, very brief outline of what to do in a robbery and what to do in a terror attack, and also personal safety. So this is needle prick injuries, working at high, preventing slip, trips and falls, not holding up fire exits, and also the correct use of PPE. Mobile phone use, internet and social media, that is completely banned in my salon. Also, as using the computer at reception for searching for holidays or online shopping, it's all banned. I also have a conflict of interest clause in there, which basically means that no member of my team is allowed to work outside of that business on anyone else in the beauty industry. So basically, they're not allowed to go and work on their mum, their sister, their dog, doing a beauty treatment. If that person wants to have a treatment and pay for it, they need to be coming into my business and having that treatment. If they're doing them outside, you don't know that they're not going to be taking your client base to get a cheaper discount at home. And I did actually catch somebody doing that, so be very, very careful of that, and I actually put a stop to it straight away. And then I keep in depth all copies of my policies and procedures as well, so my staff can access those should they need them. So I've not covered all my forms. I've covered all my files, but I've not covered all my forms. There's a few other forms that I do have, which is in the Salon Owners Pack, which is your parental consent form, your model consent form, staff leave request forms, take-ins and expenses sheets, staff pay rates, staff training records, and also signs and posters. They are really important to sort of have, even if you've not got staff at the minute, the Salon Bible and things like that are really essential, that when you do take somebody on, that information is already there, ready to go for you. Signs and posters, I have over 50 signs for you in the pack, which you can print off. You can also keep your own, and it just means that I can put signs to say fire doors, fire exits, toilet, no smoking and all those, so that you stay, again, legally compliant within the workplace. So I hope that wasn't boring for you. I know paperwork is like just hell on earth. I, really trying to get across very quickly everything that you need without this going into hours and hours of me talking and hours of me writing for you to spend hours and hours for reading. I hope you've captured much of that information. You can do most of this yourself. You can just go online, you can download a lot of the policies and procedures and edit them yourselves, or you can write them from scratch. And again, like I say, I've done this because a lot of people have purchased recently my Salon Owners Pack, and they want to know how to use that information. So I hope that makes it a little bit clearer why that information is in there. If you do want to purchase a Salon Owners Pack, then you can go onto salonexpert.co.uk. I'm doing it at 50% off, so it's only £150 if you use code SOP50, which is S for Sierra, O for Oscar, P for Papa, 50, and you'll get that for £150. It's an instant download, and that includes every single form and header and sheet and everything that I've covered today, and probably a hell of a lot more as well in there. I think there's about 500, 600 folders or files. 600 files, sorry. So if you have any questions, if you want to ask me anything on any of the policies, procedures, or folders or files, or why, because I couldn't go into too much depth, because like I say, we'll be here all day, then please email me at salonexpertuk@gmail.com, or you can contact me through Facebook, which is Kate Sharmond, or you can contact me on the Salon Expert UK page, and I've also got a group as well that you can join. But I hope that made sense. I hope once you've implemented it, does sound a lot of work to begin with, but I promise you, I've ran so many businesses, I've not had this in place, and when I've started to implement these kind of systems, everything runs so much more smoothly. You've got everything to hand, and your staff have become a lot more compliant as well, because you've got something to test and measure by, and something to discipline them by as well. So thank you guys for actually getting this long into the whole video presentation and watching it all. Please leave me some feedback on how I can improve as well, because this is completely new to me, and I really do need to make sure that I'm delivering good content in future. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.